Welcome back to the sweatshop. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2006 Subaru Tribeca. What we're doing in today's video is we're going to be replacing the center drive shaft on this Tribeca. Of course, this is not a job that is very hard. You just got to know what to do. And after watching this video, you're going to know what to do. As you can see, we have a used shaft here on my parts table. Of course, the whole thing is not in frame. Not a bad idea to get a used shaft, considering that they are way cheaper than the shafts that you get at the dealership or remanufacture shafts. If you do have a good drive shaft shop locally, you can get these joints replaced sometimes. However, it would help if you could see the joint. You can get these joints replaced sometimes. However, it is not a serviceable part technically, so a lot of drive shaft shops, unless they know what they can put in there, aren't gonna have a solution for you. So your next best option is getting a used shaft from a auto wrecker or a parts guy somewhere. Really, as long as you know what to do and how to check it, you're good to go. Now, what you're gonna look for when you have your new shaft is two things. Make sure there are no tears or rips on this section of the shaft. Make sure that this guy here rotates without making any sort of funny noises and that the bearing does not bind up. Make sure if you do get a used shaft that that little letter there is the same. At the very least, the bracket has to be the same, because it won't sit right if it isn't. Now, once you get past all that, it's time to check your U-joint. Want to make sure that you have free operation. If there's a little bit of binding, not a big deal. This one is nice and free, which we like. You also want to make sure that as you rotate it, it doesn't bind up and it doesn't squeak, because that's usually a sign that it's going to bind up eventually. Make sure there's not a whole bunch of rust in this area. You can always take care of that, but this side here, if there's rust and it's not surface rust, it's pretty much garbage, because you're not going to be able to grind into this. This here is a nice machined surface and it needs to stay that way. If there's any damage to the surface, like rust or any sort of grinding that takes place in order for you to get rid of that rust, it's most likely going to leak and you're going to give yourself a headache. So if that's rusted, shaft is trash. Obviously check this U-joint here. If there's a little bit of binding, not the end of the world. Binding in the sense that it's a little bit stiff in a certain area because it does wear. You just don't want any play, and you don't want it to squeak or have any sort of rust coming out of those boots. If there is rust dust coming out of the boot, the shaft's on its way out. No point in wasting your money. Yeah, that's it. That was a mouthful. Now, obviously you got the general condition. Make sure it's not rusted to shit and it doesn't have dents and all that sort of stuff and is bent. If you can't tell that, well, probably not a good idea to get that shaft. With that being out of the way, this is a job that requires you to get underneath the car. You will need at least, I would say it's best to have 4 jack stands, because getting underneath the car with 2 and then trying to crawl around in the dirt, it sucks. I definitely wouldn't do it, and I would advise that you don't do the same thing. However, you can do it with just the front end up in the air or the back end. It's just gonna make your life way harder. Of course, don't get underneath the car without jack stands, and yeah, you don't want to die because you were trying to save yourself some money. That being said, before we get started with today's video, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. Okay, let's put this thing up in the air. On the Tribeca, it's kind of hard to show you, but essentially this is our center drive shaft, and of course it goes all the way to the front of the vehicle. It disappears towards the front of the vehicle. Where the hanger bearing is, there is a shield. We are of course going to remove that shield in order to access our center bearing. We are not going to touch our exhaust. There is very rare cases when you have to. I can't remember ever removing an exhaust on a Tribeca. Anyhow, you don't want to remove the exhaust, because if you do, you usually end up with an issue. And I'll show you where that issue is. This guy here is your ball flex unit. This has obviously been replaced. It's not the OE ball flex unit. However, it is developing the same problem that I don't want to have. It has a bit of a hole and it's rusting quite a bit. You can see a bit of water. We've got a very small leak, so we're not going to touch this thing. And I don't advise that you guys touch it either, because it usually looks, well, just as rusted as this, and it won't come apart easily. It will make your life a royal pain in the ass. Also, if you're filming, don't kick the goddamn camera. Now, in case you're wondering why it is we are replacing the shaft, well, you can definitely see that shiny spot there. You can see that shiny spot there. It's because when I go like that, it bangs the one end of the shaft to the other. That is a really bad U-joint. This would be vibrating like crazy on the highway, as well as consistently clunking whenever you put it into gear. If you're hearing that sort of noise or you're having a vibration, check this, because what happens when these fail is, well, this shaft, this portion of it, is allowed to go willy-nilly and basically bash whatever the hell it wants. Well, this here is your gas tank on either side, and there's your exhaust. It's going to be a very expensive and potentially life-threatening issue if this shaft breaks, because when it starts smashing against the road, it's usually going to create sparks, and if you have gasoline coming out of your now punctured tank, that could be a very, very bad day. So don't let it get this far. Usually it's way less than this. Yeah, don't risk it, man. Just get the shaft repaired. This one's a spectacularly bad shaft. I haven't had one this bad in quite a while, but yeah, luckily the customer made it in today and I'm able to still have enough energy to do it. So yeah, let's go ahead and start removing some stuff, and I'll stop talking now. Get yourself a 12 mil and a Nagadaga gun. Make sure you don't go ham on it. You don't want to break the bolts. And now let's get these two nuts. They're just a little bit farther up. Then we got this guy right here. It's another 12 mil. There's another one on the opposite side. You can't really get in there with anything other than a ratchet wrench. My preferred ratchet wrench is the longer the better, because leverage makes your life so much better. God damn, what the f... Put that in there with fucking super glue or something? Jesus. Yeah, just in case you're wondering, it's not super glue, it's fucking Rust Tite, our old nemesis. And yeah, it's there to ruin your fucking life. Ah, damn it. Fuck you, Rust Tite. Fuck you. You know what? We're gonna use my new tool. This here is called a hot rod. And, well, it's gonna probably be a bit hard to hear me, but basically it's one of those induction heaters, which is goddamn spectacular. Let's see what we get here. Oh. It's kind of hard to get in there because the camera's in the way, but hey, whatever. YouTube, right? Now, so far I really like this tool because it helped me out pretty big today. However, it can be a little bit of a challenge to see what's going on because you don't really see much of a flame or anything. If there's any sort of residue, all you see is that thing getting nice and hot. That's it. Because it burns off. Now, I don't know how hot that is, but we're going to give it a shot and see. Let's see if we've convinced it to cooperate with us. Whatever you do, don't touch it with your hand because you don't want to fucking burn yourself. Oh my god! Okay, well, there you go. It's still pretty tight, but she's coming out, so I'd say that's a success. Alright, camera's in the way, so that's the end of this clip. Remove the bolt, obviously. No, this is not a bad dream. This is just the other side. All you gotta do is exactly what I did on the other side. I'm not even gonna waste time. I'm just gonna heat this thing up, because fuck that noise. Plus, I like using new tools. It's so much fun. They also say not to use this thing if you have a pacemaker, and well, Lord only knows what kind of shit this thing might potentially do to you, but it's working right now for my job, so, you know, I don't know, whatever. Try not to think about it. Alright, let's try that again. Oh, well, try it once. Yeah, no, that's not working so good. Is it going? Yes! Oh, fucking hell. Ooh, it's hot. You can feel that heat going through my ratchet head into my finger. Oh yeah. Now, the fun part is slipping this shield out. Try your best not to contort it too much or bend it. First things first, pull out this area here where the stud is, and then just try to move it. And then pull it back and kind of bend it around the exhaust. Okay, you want to cooperate, motherfucker? There we go. Now, if you do bend it a little bit, not the end of the world, don't worry. You can bend it back when it's on the car. In case you're wondering, there is the rest of our shaft. And of course, that is the back of the transmission, the silver portion. Now, let's go ahead, turn our attention to our hanger bearing. Get some WD-40 or whatever lubricant you like. Now, what you're gonna do is get your favorite lubricant and just spray it inside here. Make sure you get the shaft of the bolt nice and wet, because if you try to pull that shaft through the threaded bolt hole, well, you might end up with some issues that tissues won't solve, like a damaged shaft. And well, nobody wants that. Alright, in order to do this, you're going to need a flat pry bar, or really a screwdriver, big enough screwdriver so you don't bend it, and a 12mm offset wrench. This here is an offset wrench. You can use a regular wrench. I find that the offset works better just because it's a little bit longer than my regular combination wrench. And yeah, I don't know. I've just always used this for this. I can't remember exactly why. You can use a combination wrench. Anyhow, just if you have one of these, use that. All right. If yours is rusted like mine is, you can also use a combination wrench or some WD-40 to help lubricate this thing. Yeah, let's get a ratchet wrench. We'll make all of our lives better. You know, come to think about it, you can use whatever goddamn wrench you want, because there's nothing hindering me. I just have always used my offset wrench, and now I'm trying to figure out why it is I always started with that. I don't know, whatever. You know what? Use whatever goddamn wrench you want. It doesn't matter. Just get the bolts off. Okay? And then just put these guys together so you don't screw them up, because sometimes, I don't know, people are weird. They'll put the washer on this side and stupidness, which doesn't make sense. But you see a lot of stuff in the automotive trade. You definitely see all kinds of crackheads. You know? I'm a mechanic. In my time, my friend, I have seen some crazy ass shit, man. You want to see some crazy stuff? There's a really good channel that gives me a kick. It's called Just Rolled In. I actually mentioned it in another video, but I really like their channel because you get to see what a lot of us mechanics go through on a daily when we see stupid shit. You know, it's like, dude, you know, it's like that old thing where, well, I came in for my engine, now my taillight don't work, that sort of crap, you know? And just crazy people who like will cut through their frame in order to put a power steering pump in. That one stuck with me, man. Because there's so many times when we as mechanics feel like doing that sort of stuff. Just taking a goddamn hammer to something because it's such a dumbass design. But of course we can't, because we're professionals. You know, whatever the fuck that means. Oh yeah, that's right. It means underpaid, overtaxed, and fucking overworked. That's what that means. Professional, yes. Yes, now I remember. Alright. Yeah, baby. It's nice when the bolts come loose. This guy here might just have to tap a little bit. Shouldn't take much though. Okay, let's do the tap, 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 tap. See? Very little. Now, if you have problems with those bolts like I did in the front, no need to get worried. You can use a small little torch. Even a heater gun or a heat gun would work too. I've actually demonstrated that in, I think it was one of my alternator videos. What I did there is just stick the pry bar between the U-joint and the yoke, or this drive shaft piece that connects to our diff, and then just kind of forced it off at the same time pushing towards the front of the vehicle, and there is the result. Off in the distance here, you can see a little bit of it. There is a stand supporting the shaft. Now the reason why that is, of course, because I don't want the shaft coming down, bopping me in the goddamn head. If you have a friend, now is the time to call that person over and say, hey man, can you give me a goddamn hand? You don't necessarily need one. It's not the hardest thing in the world to handle. However, if you're crawling around on the floor, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. Anyhow, if you're working on your own car, you're probably not making the right life decisions like I am, so fuck, you know, call a friend. Anyhow, at the very least, they'll get some pleasure of you destroying yourself trying to get a shaft out of your car. Grab a 14 mil. We're gonna get the hard one first. Oh, it's in the way. All right, we're gonna get a stubby or shallow flex socket, 3/8, and we're gonna hammer that guy off, because I don't want to move this exhaust. Yeah, let's do that first. So you're gonna get one of these guys here. This will make your life quite a bit easier. You're gonna sneak it in and then crank it loose. Get an extendo ratchet. Makes life so much easier. Yeah. Oh no. No, man. Come out, motherfucker. Oh. Oh. Fucking piece of shit. Okay, so, yeah, you know, so much fun. Oh. Basically, you want to, you know, I got a 15-inch extension. It's a bit long, and it causes a lot of rebound, which makes this thing buck like that and kick back. However, I don't want to bust my fingers on the stand or the camera or any of that stuff. So that's why I'm implementing such a long extension. However, this is getting tired on my joints real quick. So we're gonna, motherfucking piece of shit. Spray that guy again with some lubricant. God damn it. Think it's easy? Everybody thinks it's easy. When it's on YouTube, it takes like 2 fucking minutes. You know? But in real life, you guys can't see the tears running down my goddamn cheeks right now. That's real life, brother. That's what's up. Come on, God. Help our brother out. Okay, now we're gonna get a 3-inch extension and gun that. There we go. Give me back my fucking socket. All right, now you can see why it is I did the hard one first, because you never do the easy one first, because that always ends up with you getting a goddamn headache. Now you can do the easy one. Holy shit, that was scary, man. That came free way too quick. I felt like it broke. I haven't had one of those break, but I have seen them in certain Rust Belt videos break, and I could only imagine the terror that a mechanic or a person would feel when having one of those bolts break, because, yeah, no one's in the mood to fucking drill one of those things out right now. Okay. Things are looking good. The shaft's almost out. I haven't broken any bolts or any fingers, so life is good. What we need to do now is take a nice rag, like so, something that is relatively absorbent, to double or triple it up, and then put it right above your exhaust in this area here, because you don't want any oil that drips out of the back of the transmission falling onto your exhaust. It sucks when you have that shit burn off and enter your lungs. Now, we're gonna wiggle the shaft, but looks can be deceiving. Transmission fluid can sometimes gush out of that hole like a mother. And then you're gonna cry yourself to sleep as you see it all over the floor. Take your drain pan, that guy there, and put it right underneath the transmission. Or, well, right underneath the goddamn shaft. Then go ahead and pull the shaft out. Yes! That is the way, my friends! Oh, this fucking stand is in the way, son of a bitch. Okay, with the stand out of the way, removes the shaft. Okay, now, Don't be that crazy person who just shoves the bolts back into the hole. You want to make sure you tap them and anti-seize them. You can see there we got a nice layer of anti-seize. All the rust is gone. In case you're wondering, these are the hardware that we took off for the exhaust shield, and the proper size is M8 by 1.25 pitch. These guys here, same thing with all of your hardware. Anti-seize and tap them, make sure all the crud is gone. You can also tap the holes on the car as well if it was excessively rusted. For these two guys that were holding the center bearing, it is an M10 by 1.25 pitch. For these guys here, it is an M8 by 1.25 pitch. These are, of course, our drive shaft bolts. Now, in order to put our shaft in, we need to do some work on the end of the shaft as well as the differential. Now, what we need to do to ensure the longevity of our shaft as well as our sanity is we need to make sure this mating surface is rust-free and nice and flat. Obviously, there's a bit of rust there. We don't want to grind it down or take away material. However, the rust and debris that is there, you want to take away with one of these guys here. Just a 3-inch wire cup on a grinder. Of course, you're going to do this side as well as the dry shaft side. Don't skip this step. It takes a little bit of work, but it is well worth your time because you don't want your joint sitting unevenly and then sputtering around. Is just going to help it wear faster and give you potential for vibrations, which nobody likes. The only types of vibrations that you like are the ones that you know about that are happening. If you have to chase a vibration or a noise, you'll pull your goddamn hair out and lose your mind. So yeah, don't be that person. Of course, I'm not going to film this because there's no room for me to have the camera as well as the grinder in there. So I'll be back. You should end up with a result like this where the mating surface is nice and flat, and then what you want to do is go around the edge of the mating surface to make sure that none of these rust particles are higher than the flat machine surface. If they are, go ahead and knock them down because you don't want them to hinder how it sits. Of course, do this on the other side of the flange. You can brake clean in here and give it a nice coating of grease or lithium grease. Nah, I don't have any lithium grease right now, so we'll give it a nice brake clean and then send her on its way. Yeah! That's pretty much what you got to do. Now we're ready to insert the shaft. What we got to do now, of course, is take our shaft and insert it into the rear of the transmission. Make sure you take your time with this. Do not shove it in with too much force. It shouldn't take really any force. Once you get the shaft over the transmission portion, what you're going to do is just rotate, and that guy should slide right in. Of course, it's not right now. There we go. Slide your hanger bearing in, and then just tuck your shaft in there. Make sure it's not going to fall out on your head. Get a hanger bearing bolt and shove it into place. Make sure it's nice and secure. Shove your other bolt in. You should be able to thread them up by hand relatively easily. If you can't, then tap that hole. Okay, now get our gun and just run these guys up. I love flex sockets. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the back of the shaft. You can see here there is a little bit of a difference between one end of the shaft and here. What you want to do is make sure that you get the correct portion matching up with the shaft. That way it's not going to sit uneven. Okay. There we go. Yes, good job, Jimmy. All right. Now, if for whatever reason this does not go together smoothly, take it apart and inspect. You shouldn't have any real issue getting these guys to go together, especially if you took the time to get rid of any rust or debris. If you didn't, well, that's the problem. Ratchet wrench. We're not looking to tighten up now, we're just putting the bolts in. And we will, of course, snug them up later. There is a torque spec for these guys, but of course it is damn near impossible to get a torque wrench in there, even with a crow's foot. But I will give you guys the proper torque spec and show you the way that you can torque it. God damn it, who put that stupid gas tank there? Alright, yeah. See, when you do the work, everything just goes together nicely, right? You don't have any crap or surprises to deal with, which is always spectacular. Now, let's go and start torquing stuff. Grab your torque wrench, set it to 38 foot-pounds or 52 newton meters. It's 38.3, but the 0.3 ain't gonna make a difference, so yeah. Perfecto. Now, torquing the back here is not something that I usually do. However, it's not impossible. You will need basically what is called an extender or crow's foot or extended crow's foot. There are various names for it, all the same thing. Basically, it's basically like a half combination wrench with a 3/8 drive on the end. Or you can be cheap like Jimmy. This guy here is just a regular socket that I cut a hole in, and basically all we do is we line this guy up and we crank it to the desired torque. Of course, you have to be aware that longer that you are away from the shaft, the more torque you're going to generate, and then obviously the position of the head matters as well. I'm not going to explain all that in this video. Essentially, what you want to do is have this guy here at 90 degrees. So you want it like this when you're torquing and as close as possible, and then you're going to achieve the torque that is needed for those little fasteners there. And of course, that torque is 23 foot-pounds or 31 newton meters. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but you're going to have to stick a pry bar or any sort of bar through the U-joint in order to get this guy to stay put. Of course my fucking drive shaft's in the goddamn way. Son of a bitch. Or camera. Don't hit the camera if you're filming. Usually pretty bad. That's one. Oh, damn it. Okay, well, you know what? You get the point. I'm gonna go do this off camera. The next one you want to do is the one on the opposite side, and then you want to crisscross like that and then do a circular check to make sure that they're all torqued. Okay, I'm gonna go do this. Well, let me see if I can reposition the camera. Yeah, let's try that shit. Make sure you don't collide with anything like I just did, because you get a false reading, obviously. There we go. Now let's do the other two. And then we'll do a circular check. You know, I'm going to do that off camera because there's no point to goddamn filming it. Yes, baby! Alright, I'm gonna go double check these guys off camera and I shall see you back. Okay, go ahead, grab your shield and slide it back into place. Be gentle with it, don't be overly aggressive, don't hit the camera. Oh, baby. Yeah, fucking prick. There we go. Yeah, sometimes you gotta whisper sweet nothings to it, right? Like swear words, because it helps. Place the nuts in first. Yes, if he likes that. It's very nice. If you just take your time to do those little things like anti-seize and all that, she gets in quick. I'll do those two front bolts that were ever so nice to us previously. Go ahead, run up all the bolts. I've already done the two front ones. They were a royal pain in the ass, and really you won't be able to torque them with a torque wrench. You can do the same thing that I did with the rear drive shaft, but they're just heat shield bolts, so no biggie. Set your torque wrench to 18 foot-pounds or 25 newton meters. And we are good to go. That's all she wrote for this one. All you gotta do is make sure there are no funny vibrations or sounds coming from your drive shaft, and you are good to go. Hopefully you found the video entertaining as well as informative. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. And as always, thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one. What we're doing in today's video is we are going to be replacing our center drive shaft. I should line the fucking camera up better because that doesn't look good. We're going to be using a used drive shaft. There's not anything that's wrong with getting a used one because, well, the brand new ones are ridiculously expensive. So definitely take a look in a scrapyard or like your blah, 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 blah. The fuck, where was I going with that? I don't know where the fuck I was going with that. Considering that they are way cheaper than the brand new shafts that you come... Considering that they're way cheaper than the shafts that you get at... Ah, fuck. If you do have a good drive shaft shop, make sure there's not way too much rust. This shaft's gonna be trash because it's not gonna be able to do anything. Do anything? What the fuck? This is a nice machine surface. Ah, for fuck's sakes, man. That's what happens when you're fucking tired at the end of the day. Should have did this in the beginning. This is a nice machined. Fucking idiot. That is probably the best I'm gonna fucking get through that sentence, so we're gonna leave that shit alone. Let's try one more time. This is a nice machined, oh, fuck me, man. To access the center bearing or the hanger bearing. Why do they call it a center bearing, stupid? This guy here is your flex pipe, dummy. Ball flex. In this section here is where our drive should be in frame, Jimmy. Once I get the shield out of the way, I'll be able to show you exactly how it is we wiggle this thing out. And this is just fucking repetitive. It doesn't mean anything. Fuck you, Rustite. Fuck you. You know what? We're gonna use my fucking new tool. I can do that without swearing. Oh, I didn't stop recording. So what I did there is just stuck my shaft. What I did there is just stuck my pry bar. If you're crawling around, where are you? Fucking motherfucking piece of shit. You should end up with a result like this. Basically, where the what? Oh, don't hit the fucking camera, Jimmy. Stop shaking, you fucking retard. I said stop. Hey, get the fuck on there, eh? Give me the socket back. Goddamn snap-on. Fucking snaps on too much sometimes and snaps the fuck off when you don't need it to. God, see? See what I'm saying? Son of my bitch. I don't know if I mentioned it already. Well, the fucking camera's in the way. Son of a bitch. Anyhow, that's all she wrote for this one. All you gotta do is take the thing for a test drive. Make sure there's no weird vibrations or funny sounds coming from the underside of your fucking car. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.